Welcome back, everybody, to another Money Moves. It's Tuesday, so you know what that means. We're going to be talking about cash and money and making it and spending it and how you can maximize the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to money. So, welcome back. This is John C. with the awesome Wendy Lee.
Okay. Good morning.
She's
Good
quiet
morning.
this morning. She's quiet. She hasn't had her coffee yet. But today we're going to talk about a simple strategy to help you build wealth. I mean, we talk about all these different ways and things like that, but we're going to do a little bit of a high level, keep it simple kind of strategy that you can implement really starting today to get your stuff going and start building wealth for you and your family. So give it a second. Do us a favor, share this, let your friends know, hey, Money Moves is about to start, and we'll get started here in just a few seconds. So let's talk about money. Let's talk about
Yeah.
what we should be doing with it and stuff. And this is going to be a little more geared today towards our business owners, our entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, your 1099s, your side giggers, stuff like that. Because we're in a big gig economy, especially now with a lot of the different layoffs and stuff going on. People are trying to figure out, okay, what do I got going in? And it's so easy to fall into that trap of I made some money and now I'm going to spend some money. And a lot of people, can get into trouble with that. You don't set back reserves. You don't set back for taxes. You're not really, looking at long-term strategy. You're living for the day. And that can be a bit of a challenge, right? I mean, we've talked about that. I
Yeah.
think you experienced that. So, I mean, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not know what to do with the money that came in the door as an entrepreneur. Like, didn't really have a strategy. And back in, 2016 and 17, I was making good money that I didn't save the right way for taxes. I didn't divide up my money in such a way that it I'd have something there should things go backwards. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it put me in a little pickle. So
Well, and in your situation, short term, but I mean, it can create some havoc in your life. And not only that, I know, when I first got into my solopreneur, right? When I first started doing this full time, I shifted over, and I built some bad habits, kind of starting out of the gate because I had my day gig, right? My W-2, that was my main income stream at the time while I was building my side business. And it was like the money that came in from that was like, oh, this is just kind of extra cash, extra fun money.
right.
Let's go vacation and spend, and finally I started realizing, hey, I want to go full time on this. So I need to start thinking about it. And I was fortunate enough, I'm all about mentors, have a circle of people around you kind of guiding you to help you avoid the pitfalls and potholes that they hit on their journey. And that was one of the things that I was told about was, hey, you really need to kind of build up a war chest and pay yourself less than you're actually earning because on those ups and down incomes. And I know realtors out there can relate to this, right?
Yeah.
You have that awesome month, flush with cash, and then all of a sudden you're like way down here. It's like, man, is anything going to close? And you're like spending the money you had, racking the credit card debt back up, and it's like this
Yeah.
vicious cycle that's it creates havoc
Yeah.
and anxiousness and stuff like that, and it doesn't need to be that way. So we've talked about the TPG money split system, and there's a video on that talking about, okay, when you get the money in, how you divide it in all those different places.
Mhm.
You want to have some money staying in the company, you want to have some money set aside for taxes because the tax man cometh. We just had April 15th. Sorry, got a little nauseous there. But it's one of those things that the IRS is going to get theirs. Spell that out and you'll know what I mean. But okay, so what do I do with the money? I've already kind of got that set aside. Now I'm taking my money. How much, where should I spend it? And you want to keep reserves too. You want to pay yourself less than you're actually earning.
Right.
And why is that so important, Wendy?
Yeah. Oh, because in down times, like I've seen over and over where, well, take the realtor example, right? Feast or famine. And it's like they just went through a season where they couldn't keep up with all the business coming in. And they probably felt like, well, yeah, I got the money, right? and
Making it
then
rain.
and then the interest rates go up, people stop buying houses, and a lot of them become now they're in a crippling state and probably up with anxiety every evening, worrying about how to pay the bills. Um, Whereas if you create that reserves and only pay yourself a set amount, right, and not go overboard in the good times, but understand preparing for that. We talk about rainy day fund and personal finance, but like, what about in our professional gig, right? And then I see people that have. I come from the network marketing industry, and oh, I get paid this every month. It's always growing, and then something shifts in the economy or in the company, and then the income decreases. And the people that aren't prepared for that are the ones that are really stressed out and hurting.
Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't have to be that way, and you can definitely have a longer period to shift. Allow yourself that longer period of shift. But I mean, just like you
Mhm.
said, things change on a dime. And
Yeah.
we talked to when we're doing the planning side for Turning Point Group. I mean, we talked to network marketers. They've seen a big shift, almost I don't want to say overnight, but very rapid shift downward on their economy because everybody else is tightening their clients or tightening their belt and cutting out the excess, so to speak. But even with business owners, and planning and things like that, a lot of them are, they put everything back in the business. They drain everything out to have all the fun toys and stuff like that, but they don't plan anything in the future because they think, I'm going to build this business. I'll sell the business. That's my retirement strategy. Yeah, that typically doesn't work out that way. Something happens along the way, or the business is worth a lot less than you thought it would be. I mean, so you've got to kind of plan accordingly. So what are the magic numbers? I mean, there's a couple of different theories out there. I like a little bit of a hybrid, and this is what do you do with the net amount of money, right? Okay, I've set
Yeah.
my money back for my company. I've got my money going back into my war chest, and then I'm paying myself. I pay taxes. I paid myself. What do I do with the net money that I have? So there's a concept out there. There's two actually. One called the 70-20-10 rule. And this is stuff you can Google it. I mean, it's not, I didn't invent it. It's not, private info. But then the other one is the 50-30-20 rule. I like a little bit of a
Mhm.
hybrid. I like the 50-20-20-10 rule, right? And that overcomplicated, I guess, a little bit, but I think you guys can handle it.
Yeah.
So 50%, and actually let's shift it up on who should get paid first. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want to paint this concept to you. Susie Orman talks about it. I talk about it. Clark Howard talks about it. Dave Ramsey talks about it. It's all about paying yourself first.
Mhm.
You are the most important person. We're talking about net money now. You've already paid your taxes, but you are the most important person out there in your life. You are the reason that you're busting your butt. You are the reason that you're putting in the extra hours. You are the reason that you're working so hard for yourself and your family.
Mhm.
But most of us in middle class, who gets paid last? You, right?
Mhm.
It's all about, I got to pay the bills. I got to do this. I got to do this. Now, I'm not saying don't pay your bills. That's not what I'm saying. But, get out of the debt and things like that. But, you want to make sure you're setting aside 20% towards your savings, right?
Mhm.
Not 10. If you're in your 20s, okay, you can get by 10, but you ultimately want to get up to 20, 25%. 10% when you're in your 40s ain't going to get it,
Not
folks.
gonna cut it.
Nope, it's called math. And I know that's what you hear out there. I was just reading a book by Susie Orman. Love her. She's awesome. But it's some simple, oversimplified information, and it's not specific to you, right?
Mhm.
And really, what you need to do is sit down with a planner and kind of map out your specific journey. But as a general rule, 10% is good when you're first starting out in your career. You don't have a lot of money, you got a lot of time, so it works in your favor. But you can't expect to, especially if you're starting late, to get 10% and be where you want to be.
Right.
So 20% goes towards savings, right? And then 10% goes towards tithing and charity, right?
Mhm.
We have a lot of Christian followers on here, and we all know the tithing. Is it on the gross? Is it on the net? It's technically on the gross, but set aside 10% of your money towards tithing or charity. And if you're not, a Christian, you go to a church. It's amazing how it feels. And I know you're charitable, Wendy. I mean, it feels kind of cool. It feels great, and it's not about look at me. It's just knowing that you're giving,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Knowing you're helping
Yeah.
somebody out. I mean,
Yeah. I think
go ahead.
that for me, like being in that state where I'm giving, I actually, when I get paid, that's the first thing I do. I can text my church my my amount, and that's the first thing I pay. And I feel like it's satisfying knowing I'm doing my part, and not to be like legalistic of, oh, it's 10%. Like, I don't judge anybody on what it is, but I do think that giving that first fruits is important, just for your own soul. But giving in general, when you I want to tell one, I wasn't going to talk about this one, but one quick story. Right after I adopted three kids, um, I had kind of basically spent my last dime to bring my kids home from Africa. And it was leading right into Christmas. And my business, I was in network marketing, and it wound up becoming a really slow time. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't prepared for it. And there was a
Usually how it
friend,
happens.
yeah, there was a friend of ours, whose boyfriend, my friend, her boyfriend said, co- said to her one day, and she called me and she said, "Wendy, my boyfriend just said he has a giving account. He puts 10% in his giving account all year long, and he prays about where he should put it. And your name came up today, and he said, does Wendy need help with her kids for Christmas? Because I want to give her what's in that account." And it was just the craziest thing, because I didn't express to anybody that we were struggling, with Christmas,
Mm.
and, their first Christmas here. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to even get presents this year. Not that that's what it's about, but, and then to have somebody, and he was like, I was so grateful, and just tell him thank you so much. And he's like, Wendy, this is like a blessing for me. Right. And that's what it is. It comes back to, it feels good to be able to give
Yeah.
to others. It's a blessing for us as much as it is for them. So,
Yeah, I mean, it really is. If you haven't, for you, the viewer, if you haven't done this, make a point to try, and you'll be amazed. And don't get caught up into what are they doing with the money. Don't get caught up into, is it going to a good thing or that or the other. I mean, check it. There's, especially if you're donating to a charity, a 501(c), you can actually look and see, how much of the dollar. There's a website out there that shows you how much of the dollar actually gets to the end user, and it's not just going towards executive salaries and stuff like that, because that does bug me. But don't let it stop you from giving, right? Find the right, charity or group that you sync with, things like that. But kind of looking at that again, that's 20% towards saving for the future you, towards building that wealth, 10% towards charity towards others, and then we get into kind of the meat of the matter, right? And looking at 50% towards needs, 20% towards wants.
mhm.
50% towards needs, 20% towards wants, right? And what's the difference? Well, I think a lot of people know the difference, but sometimes we maybe sell ourselves on that want really being a need. I need it. I need the newest iPhone, or I need the newest and latest and greatest gadget out there. It's one of those things
Or I
that you're
need a new
really kind of
car.
have. I need a new car, right? Oh, mine's getting dirty and da 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 da. And ooh, look at that new whatever, and I need it. I need it for business. I remember my very first car I bought. I was good at that, and I need this new car, and because I need to look the part of a young executive, blah blah blah. And I look back on that now, and I just kind of shake my head and smile, because I can't go back in time, but the things that we do with money. I mean, look back at all the money that we spend on stuff. And it goes back to, I used this in an example yesterday. If you have a little extra spending money a day, and I'm talking a little, like $13.70, right? If you spend that every day on whatever, lunch out, coffee, it adds up fairly quickly, right? 13.70. If you take that money every day for a year, you're going to have $5,000 at the end of the year, a little over that, but we'll just say 5 grand. If I grow that and do that every year, you're going to end up with, by the time you hit retirement, and this is over like a 20-year period, just 1370 a day, right? You're going to end up with over $250 million. I mean, it's crazy. And that's just money. So it goes back to being intentional, right?
Mhm.
So, looking at the needs versus the wants, and ask yourself, when you make these purchases, is this purchase moving me closer to or further away from my ultimate financial goals of building wealth for my
Yeah.
family, and, being sustainable and things like that. But, looking at how you break this all up. So I'll go in, highest to lowest. So 50% going towards needs, your rent, your mortgage, right? Utilities, food.
Food.
And I'm not
Yeah.
talking DoorDash. I'm talking like groceries and maybe occasionally eating out. And I think the eating out falls more towards the wants. And then you've got 20%, 50% going to that, 20% going to your wants, 20% going to savings for the future you. And that's something to get excited about, right? Because it's all going to you anyway. That's your money, right? And
Mhm.
making sure you're growing it. And that way you don't have to work literally till the day you drop. And then 10% going to charity, okay, or
Yep.
tithing, right? So 50, 20, 20, 10. And that's kind of what I see as kind of that perfect formula. And then it becomes okay, well, what am I saving it into? How am I keeping track of this? One of the baseline things is to get that spending plan. We've got a video on that, right? I recommend one of our partners. It's moneypatrol.com. Fantastic setup, fantastic as far as simplicity. Best of all, it's free. And if you want to upgrade into their higher end, higher performing software, they've got 3 levels. The highest level, I think, is like $80 a year. So it's
Mm.
extremely cost effective, but just being intentional about that money and, keeping track of it and things like that.
Yep. Yep. Love it. Yeah. Tracking is important and then also planning it ahead of time. So, but
Planning
it's
ahead of
hard,
time, yeah.
coming from that, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 11 years with inconsistent income and going back to that. It's hard to rein it in. It's hard to figure it out. You're not going to get it right away. And there's going to be times, I was talking to a client the other day. She's like, I'm really good at splitting it, but I'm also really good at stealing it from my other buckets. Right. So
That's
it's
where the discipline comes
creating
in.
creating the discipline and not, I think for me, one thing I want to just finalize with, when you split up your money, not just mentally, but in actual different accounts, it helps
Mhm.
so much to like not. I remember when I used to put everything in one account, I was like, "Oh, I'm rolling in it." And it was really hard to manage it well, but when you split it up and you see those smaller numbers in accounts, it's easier to keep that drive to work hard, and to build that war chest, as you call it, over time. I lost you, John. I'll edit this part. I'll edit that part
Keep
out. I
going.
lost you for a minute. Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's what's helpful for me is just dividing it up. So, to go back to that, check out the money split system that we have. Former video, you can just type on YouTube and on our YouTube channel and find that, if you don't know what that looks like. And then also the 50, 20, what are we at, John? 50, 20, 20, and 10?
You froze
Got
and
nothing?
cut up pretty bad. So go into that last
Okay.
little close
All
of it
right.
and let's keep it tight.
Okay. Um, So, yeah, I'll have to just edit out the middle. So,
Okay.
yeah, when you
Let's
have that excess and dividing up into those different accounts, and then you can go check out the money split system. If you do the search bar in the YouTube channel, you can find that if you haven't seen that before. But then also dividing that personal out once you bring it into the house for your needs, your wants, your giving, and your
mhm.
savings.
Yeah, and that money split system, guys, like Wendy said, go back and watch that video because that'll really help you as far as building up the war chest. And so when those months that you have a lot lower money coming in, it doesn't impact you personally. Why? Because you've got reserves built up. And so you can keep
Yeah.
your paycheck. I pay myself on the 1st and 15th. And I've had months I've done way over that. And, some months I've done less than what I pay myself. Fortunately, those are fewer than the previous. But it's one of those that you don't miss a beat, and it's so less stressful, not only for you, but if you've got a spouse with kids and stuff like that, and they're trying to plan the household budget and things like that, it makes it so much easier for them as well. So again, take this for what it's worth, the 50, 10, 20, 20, 10, and go out, be awesome. And if you'd like to hear a special topic about money that you want to learn more about, reach out to us, let us know. We'd love to see your comments below, and don't forget to give us some love. Boop, boop. Click that like button down below and share this. And don't forget, we're on podcast. So catch us on your favorite podcast platform as well. We'd love to hear from you there too. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next Tuesday on another Money Moves. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye bye.